everyone. I'm Dana Perino, along with Morgan Ortegas, Marie Harp, Lawrence Jones, and Tom Shalhoub. It's 5 o'clock in New York City. I'm feeling a little better, and this is The Five. 2020 Democratic frontrunner Joe Biden reportedly feeling burned by his former boss. According to Vanity Fair, the former VP is upset over Barack Obama meeting with other potential 2020 contenders like Beto O'Rourke before he's officially made his decision. A Biden spokesperson pushing back against the story, calling it unequivocally false. Biden may have some other obstacles in his way. A new poll showing 59% of Democratic and independent voters are excited for someone entirely new to run for president. Biden comes in second, followed by Bernie Sanders and Beto O'Rourke. And 70% of those same voters say Hillary Clinton should not run again. President Trump going after Democrats, as we have more of that? No, we don't. Is that just the poll? Okay. Well, the teleprompter is working very well today. Marie Harp, now that you're here, I don't think, even if Biden were upset, I don't think he would say so, because it's just obvious that Obama is going to have to meet with lots of Democrats going into 2020, right?
Yes, and I actually don't think, Joe Biden is an adult, right? He's been in politics a long time. He and Barack Obama are very close. I don't think he is probably very upset about this. It's interesting, though, in that poll, 59% want someone new. I think that we see that in both parties, right? That's how we got Donald Trump.
Biden were upset, I don't think he would say so, because it's just obvious that Obama is going to have to meet with lots of Democrats going into 2020, right?
Yes, and I actually don't think, Joe Biden is an adult, right? He's been in politics a long time. He and Barack Obama are very close. I don't think he was probably very upset about this. It's interesting, though, in that poll, 59% want someone new. I think that we see that in both parties, right? That's how we got Donald Trump. But Joe Biden was at 53%. So Joe Biden knows that he is very popular in the party. He's popular among independents, and Barack Obama is going to have to meet with lots of people. I do think you will see President Obama trying to keep his powder dry a little bit and not really wade into what will be, 25, 30 people in a Democratic primary here. Yeah. But if Joe Biden wants to run, Joe Biden will have a lot of support among people like Barack Obama, even if he doesn't endorse him. He was his vice president for 8 years. I don't think he's mad about Beto getting a meeting. Like, he has thicker skin than that.
Yeah, but he was his vice president the last election as well. And we know that the party leadership, as well as the president, all did the garden meeting saying that, he wasn't going to run. And this was all because Hillary Clinton was the chosen candidate.
Right.
And so
That's not why Biden didn't run.
I do think that he will be frustrated if the president doesn't get behind him. Of course, he's a policy. He understands that the president, he's a former president, has to meet with all the candidates. Yeah. But the former vice president is going to be expecting President Obama to get behind him, because he did step aside and let Hillary Clinton run.
It's not easy to tell somebody that maybe it's not, that it's past their time, right? It's not easy to tell someone that. We're not elephants.
It's, you see the word cult of person, or the phrase cult of personality about the Republicans, that the Republican Party is now a cult of personality and it's all about Donald Trump. I think that is not true. The cult of personality is the Democrat Party. The cult is Donald Trump, but they're an anti-Trump party, and that's all they are at this point. That's why they need a new personality. They're desperately in search of a personality, because they think that Trump is all about personality. He's not. It's really about policy. They liked his policies, not his personality. They didn't want just someone new, Marie. They wanted Donald Trump. It wasn't anyone new. And so they are searching for, that's why Beto is such a big thing, because they're not really sure about, why they like him, but they think he's a personality that can take on Trump. That's all they want.
They just want someone who's got a little spark. Morgan.
Maybe. I'm really looking forward to this primary, because as someone who was in the Republican primary, it was vicious and awful. And this looks like the Republican primary times like 1,000. Like, just get out the popcorn. I can't wait. What's ironic to me is how the Dem activist base is sort of freaking out that the top 3 people in polling are all white men. We've seen a lot of people that have a problem with that. And the Republican Party has been criticized nonstop by Democrats for being the party of white men. And anytime you opposed a policy of President President Barack Obama, it must have been because you're a racist. And now the women and the minorities that are going to be running for president are going to be turning that around on their fellow Democrats. It will be interesting for me to see how Bernie, how Biden, how O'Rourke answer that white male charge, which is like almost worse than being a criminal in the Democrat Party right now.
I think what's interesting is what frustrates me about fellow Democrats is they're looking for a savior right now. Like they're looking, and that's why they look at Beto, because they just want someone who's the perfect candidate and a perfect package.
Well, they had one in Barack Obama. So.
Exactly, and he won twice, overwhelmingly in one states like Indiana, right? That Democrats need to compete in. But I keep telling my fellow Democrats, we don't need a savior. The primary process sometimes works itself out. It sometimes puts forward a candidate that can win in a general. The Republican primary was insane. It put forward the candidate that could win in a general election. Same with Barack Obama in 2008. Sometimes these processes actually work. They weed out people who aren't good.
I got a question, though, for you, Marie,
exactly.
because
That's right.
tell me just about, like, logistically how you think things will change when California moves earlier for their primary, because there's so many delegates then. Does that change a lot?
That will change it. Also, the fact that superdelegates, these party elders who were given a lot of power in previous Democratic primary nominating processes, they helped anoint Hillary Clinton, for example. They have much less power now. So the power has been pushed down to the grassroots activists. Democrats in Iowa are different than Democrats in New Hampshire and South Carolina. Nevada now, no longer a caucus, now a primary. These things seem very wonky, but they actually matter when there's going to be a very hotly contested primary. Right. That's why you're going to see candidates go to Iowa, go to New Hampshire. You already are. This primary is starting like now.
The generational struggle in the Democrat Party is sort of a fascinating one as well, because in a presidential election, they rely so much on those younger voters that didn't show out for Hillary Clinton, especially younger women. And the generational struggle just isn't about their 2020 nominee. It's look at the angst that was geared towards Pelosi and towards Schumer, people who are in their 70s and have been in leadership for a long time. And I think you're sort of seeing the base of the Democrat Party, especially the young people, say, it's our turn to lead. It's our time for leadership.
Experienced leader. That's why I said right now, when it comes to the Democrats, he's the only candidate that has a shot in the running, because he has been that consistent leader.
But
what do you think of that,
looked at poll numbers, Tom, from this time in 2015 or 11 or 7, we would be talking about a whole different group of people.
Yeah, and all the numbers have to do with Trump. That's the whole thing. Even her 70% don't want her to run. They're mad at her because she lost to Trump. Like, that's why her numbers are so low.
Like, don't show your face around here again.
Yes, and I think they will forgive everything. Policy, none of it matters anymore. They will forgive Beto, the inconsistency.
Oh, I don't think so.
If they think he has the person, I don't think they're right.
Well, even the Bernie Sanders people are not like solid Bernie people right now, right? They're sort of saying you're going to have to court us a little bit.
Well, and to Morgan's point, it's a good one. There will be a debate in the party about people saying, look, we just need to win. And someone like Joe Biden or Beto, they can win, versus this, but we need to win with a fill in the blank, woman, minority, progressive, whatever that blank is. And you're going to have Democrats who say, job number one is to win, and we need to figure out how to do that and take care of the rest later.
You know what was interesting to me in the poll that we were all looking at earlier, it actually had 41% of Democrats thought that Bernie should not run again. And so for me, when you see Bernie, when you see Hillary, I sort of, well, first of all, he's not even a Democrat.
He's not a Democrat.
Sort of weird.
That all the time.
But, for me, instead of trying to Tanya Harding, Beto already in the process, why isn't he, thank you.
That was good.
I Googled that to remember her name earlier today. But why doesn't Bernie sort of say, I've set forth this more liberal agenda for the party, and I'm going to help bring up people like AOC and Beto and others and bring up the next generation, but because it's not really about that. It's about he's selfish, it's about power, more than it's about ideology. They're all so power hungry. But they can't even leave a movement and step aside and let someone else.
I disagree in a way, because that new movement, that is where the energy is.
Part of it,
yeah.
Not all of it.
And so there was a time, even people on the right, and I said this yesterday on The Five, that we would laugh at the Ocasio-Cortez, but they're winning. And it's not just her that's winning. There are incremental changes that they want to make. And I think the Democrats have to take them serious. They are the Freedom Caucus of the left.
But they're only winning in certain places. And the way we took back the majority in the House was by winning moderate seats in Kansas City and Savannah and Detroit and Denver. All these places, we took back the House with moderates. A lot of the attention goes to the progressives, and that's the fight you're going to have.
It's going to be fun. We got to run, guys. Do you have any last thoughts, Tom?
No, I mean, it's like...
Biden 2020.
I agree it is going to be fun. We'll see what happens.
All right, we will see. That's my favorite show. President Trump going after Democrats as the partial government shutdown hits day 6. See it next.
President Trump trying to pin blame on Democrats as the partial government shutdown enters day 6. The president accusing Democrats of obstruction and hypocrisy when it comes to the border wall.
We're going to have a wall. We're going to have safety. We need safety for our country. Even from this standpoint, we need a wall. So when you say how long is it going to take, when are they going to say that we need border security? When are the Democrats going to say? Don't forget, the Democrats all agreed that you need a wall until I wanted it. Once I wanted it, they didn't agree.
With negotiations reportedly at a standstill, House Republicans are saying members shouldn't expect any new votes this week. Okay, Dana, I want to start with some of the human impact of this, because we now know hundreds of thousands of federal workers having to work without getting paid. You and I have both been federal government employees, as has Morgan. There are real people who are impacted by this.
Right. So, however, I do think that this could go on for a very long time. Mark Meadows, a congressman from North Carolina, part of the head of the Freedom Caucus, was on with CNN and Dana Bash earlier and saying that he talked to President Trump, and this could go on for a long time. And in fact, I have a theory.
Okay.
I think it could go on till the State of the Union.
Oh, why?
That usually happens towards the end of the month. Remember yesterday in Iraq when President Trump made his secret trip over there that we're going to talk about later in the show. One of the things he said in the Q&A with the reporters is that he plans to go see the border. And then he was going to go see the border and take the press with him. And he said, I think I'm going to go right before the State of the Union. And I think that it could go on that long because the president is going to dig in his heels. And I'm not saying I don't know anything. This is purely my thought process. But I'm just thinking if it goes to next week, right, and Nancy Pelosi then presumably she becomes the Speaker of the House. Then you're at January 6th, okay? So then January 27th, 28th, whenever the State of the Union is, I could see it lasting that long.
I think it goes longer than that.
Well, but let me ask you a practical question. Nancy Pelosi, when she takes over and House Democrats are in charge, they will have the votes to pass a clean funding bill. It very well may pass the Senate as well, even despite Republicans picking up more votes. If President Trump vetoes that, is that a good idea? Do you think that's what he'll do? That seems like a bigger political gamble.
He doesn't have any choice. If he doesn't deliver on this piece of his promises from the last campaign, he doesn't win 2020, period. That's the only reason why the president was prepared to cave last week. There was multiple reports of it. He was bringing everybody in. And the moment everyone started attacking him in his base, it was the first time I ever seen the president fearful because those are his loyal supporters. And so the president realizes this is the gamble right now. Either this is the last time he can get it passed, and so he has to hold a firm stance on this, or he won't get reelected.
I disagree, but I'll let everybody talk, and then I'll take that on.
Well, Tom, his poll numbers have already started to go down a little bit, and the promise, to be fair, during the campaign was that not that taxpayers would pay for it, that Mexico would pay for it. What's your take on that?
That Mexico's, Democrats saying, well, we'll wait for Mexico to pay for it. That's a loser argument.
But he said it. He did say it.
He did say
it. What? It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
But the base didn't believe it anyway. They knew he was going to get the money other ways.
It's true.
Listen, when I do my talk radio, the callers come in. They all say, look, we knew he was going to find other ways for Mexico to pay for it. We knew he had the NAFTA thing. We knew they want construction to start on the wall. He's right. What he just said, that clip we played, he said Democrats already voted for this.
Yep.
They said they want a border barrier, right? Remember, it was in 2006. Democrats did vote. Obama did vote. Schumer, I believe, voted for the fencing. That's why the president is changing. He's saying, look, I'll take it if they want to call it fencing, if they want to call it steel slats.
He just wants it.
Yes. And he's right. That clip he showed, that's perfect logic. They voted for it until Trump wanted it, and then they did.
Well, okay,
that's very true.
Here's what's going to happen. January 3rd, Nancy Pelosi will take over as Speaker of the House. The House will pass a clean CR bill, right? And that's without the wall funding. They will send that to the Senate. That will not pass the 60-vote threshold in the Senate. No, but here's what I will think will happen, is that you will start to see moderate senators, especially in states like Maine, people that have a re-election that might be a Republican senator in a state where the president is unpopular, they may be able to start to pick them off. I don't think they'll be able to pick them off to get to 60. So if I'm the president or his team and I'm looking at this from a strategic perspective, it feels like we're on defense. And what we need to do is get back onto offense. How do we do that? We need to put things on the table that the Democrats can't turn down. Just saying I'm going to keep the government closed till you give me the wall funding is not going to win. Like DACA, like TPS renewal, like the Bridge Act. There's a number, and it doesn't even have to be immigration related, but there's a number of things that we could put on the table that would start to break apart their right now their coalition is united. I worry the longer this drags on that we start to get moderate senators defecting, going to the Democrat side. So that's why we need to go on offense.
I disagree with that because, I mean, from a practical standpoint, I get it. It
what
makes
are you going to
sense
get the House to pass?
To try to, you know, get some type of compromise, but they're two separate issues when it comes to securing the border, and then the citizens that are non-citizens that came here no fault of their own being here illegally. And so they've tried. You're
arguing policy. I'm arguing tactics.
But what I'm saying is they've tried that before, and it didn't get done. The president offered them how many people? 1.8. Yeah. And they still turned it down. So they've tried that tactic before. They didn't get it passed. So it's going to go either the wall or nothing. And the president is going to take that hard line.
Dana.
Okay, so two things. So one, on a communication standpoint. So the president and the Democrats are in an impasse. So how do you break an impasse? He is the one that holds the bully pulpit so that he's the one that can do something different. And I think he needs to show, not tell, or show, not tweet. So I would let other people do the talking for me. So he has great people at the Customs and Border Patrol who are civil servants. Take them down with the press and let them show them their situation. Show them how it would be more effective if they had border fencing, wall, whatever you want to call it, in these areas. How it would actually save money in the long run because you wouldn't need 4 people in one area. You just need 1 person in an area if you have that thing. So showing, not telling, I think would be really important. But I also feel like the president has a lot to point to. Aside from this $5 billion for wall funding that he has done on immigration, that he could take to the base and say, here, you want to know what I've done? Here's all these things. The asylum claims, basically getting Mexico to hold asylum seekers rather than them being held in the United States, that is such a big deal.
It is,
and he's not getting enough credit for that.
Yeah.
And Kirsten Nielsen organized that. The Mexicans are basically saying, okay, we'll swallow that, we'll have to do it. We already have that same agreement with Canada. He's done more on workplace enforcement. He's done more to get troops to the border. He's shown that he's willing to do that. The visa overstay, which is the really big issue, nobody's talking about that, and he could do that. So I feel like there are things that he could do, that he could talk to, that say, like, in addition to all of these other things that we want to do with border security, I've done all of these things as well. He's willing to fight all the way up to the Supreme Court for it. I mean, he's got a story to tell. I think he gets himself too boxed in just talking about the wall.
Right. But it plays with the base. Lawrence is right about that. We will keep monitoring to see how long the shutdown continues. In the meantime, just how addicted are Americans to their phones? We all have them out on the table here. Now there's a new way to kick that habit. Those details up next.
Some people are so addicted to technology and their devices, they're now turning to rehab. Much like programs helping those with drug and alcohol problems, tech addicts are now turning to secluded detox facilities that include 12-step programs and intense therapy. They're also agreeing to use their smartphones with limits and monitoring systems. So, Tom, one of the things that I thought was interesting and when we were reading about this and how people were addicted to their smartphones is that graying Gen Xers are the ones who are most addicted to their phones. So as a graying Gen Xer, I was hoping that you could graying.
Gray? Oh,
like
how rude.
Like gray hair.
Graying Gen Xer, yes. Well, look.
I wanted to pick on Greg.
I actually think it is true. It is true. We got a little obsessed. And when, you know, I was a real tech advocate in the 90s, and I loved when the iPhones came out, and I did get obsessed with it. And I think we suffered from it. I think because, I don't know, it really took over our lives in a way that with younger people, it's just, it hasn't taken over their lives as much.
But I was surprised that Gen Xers use the phone more than millennials.
I think that's clear why. We have to do, our work is there. We're in the prime of our working lives. We want to keep in touch with our parents as they get older, and for those of us who have children, you want to keep in touch with your children. So it's like if you're working, if you're trying to find a work-life balance, like the most effective tool is your phone.
Yes, you're right. We have more. We need to talk to more people. You're so right.
That's a good excuse. This is what it is. You guys aren't used to it. You guys aren't used to it, so y'all got a little taste of it, and you can't put it down. My generation grew up with it, and so it's nothing to us.
It's not fancy.
We don't even use it that much because it's like it's always a new toy. So we just put it down and move on to the next thing. Whereas you guys get loyal to it. Yes, it is. It's just like a phone. We grew up with computers and all that
The millennial end of the table is irritating Dana today.
But I do think there's an addictive quality to it, and I like how the new iPhone you can monitor your screen time.
True.
And I like the fact that people are now doing phone-free holidays and dinners. I like that because you can get, and it has not just mental but physical. I mean, my doctor told me the more you look down at your phone, your hands and your wrists and your neck and everything, like it
create a wrinkle.
It changes. Oh,
that happens. Well, the wrinkle thing is a problem.
I had not heard that.
I'm worried
Now
about
we're
that.
gonna stop.
Now
I got the wrist thing on election night.
Yes.
That for the rest of that week.
So
that bad.
Yeah.
and it also encourages, I mean, and the mental aspect of it, right? Like
Wrinkles, Tom.
Fear of missing out. Like people's lives look so airbrushed and perfect online. And there are all these studies about how kids or adults who see people's lives, they get depressed because they don't think their life is as good.
I've never had that problem.
I don't know how to answer that.
I don't get jealous. I'm happy for my friends' success.
But there are studies, especially teenagers, you know, there are downsides to it. And I think having some balance is very good.
We need to go further. It's not just balance. I mean, people need to put their phones away.
Yeah.
I used to wake up and go to the phone and read the news because I said, I work in the news business. I need to keep up with the headlines. Now I don't. I keep the phone away. I make my coffee. I sit there. I read text. My life is better. It's like, it's insane, but you can do it by yourself. You don't need rehab. It's just somebody trying to get you to pay for it's a paid vacation. Because then they can submit it and say, oh, it's a medical issue.
So there's something called selfie wrist, and Fox News is reporting on this. This is intense Fox News reporting this Christmas week. But selfie wrist is like, I guess when you take your phone, you take a selfie, and you're holding it for too long, you can get pain in your wrist. I love selfies. Do you have a selfie wrist issue?
No, I have long arms, so it's just like it's just a little click with things. But what concerns me about all this tech nonsense is that because people can't have personal responsibility, they want the government to come in and regulate the tech companies and the technology. Just because you can't have self-control doesn't mean that the government needs to come and be your daddy.
I agree.
If you don't like the way that Facebook is selling your private information, if you don't like that you're addicted, they built these platforms to be addictive. Guess what? They built fast food to be addictive, so you can go to McDonald's and all these other. Use personal responsibility. Delete the app. Instead, they're too lazy, and they want Congress to investigate these people and say, it's addictive, and they're selling this. You signed up for it.
Well, sometimes they don't tell you what they're selling. There's a difference between like your info that
Terms
they're selling.
and service.
No, but Facebook has not always been on it.
Don't read it.
But I saw this story today on the BBC about eye yoga that people are going to because their eyes have become so pained and damaged because of staring at screens.
Really?
I'm serious. And I don't know if it works.
Yoga, it's the same people who are doing the dumb rehab. Just put the phone down, dummy.
I actually agree with that.
So I have a fantastic selfie collection because I like to when I meet world leaders and really important people or famous people, I like to ask them for selfies because I think it's really fun. No, I totally
that girl.
I think it's really funny. My husband's always like, if I asked them for a selfie, they would be like, go away. Please go away. But I have a good collection of it. So I don't have selfie wrist. I just have a bruise on my wrist.
You need a selfie stick.
I don't know if it's the selfies that are causing the strain. It's that they're texting too much.
No, it's called selfie wrist.
Hey,
Fox News.
Everyone's making things. Oh, it's Fox News? Yeah. Maybe right.
Well, now that we've settled that.
All right.
No, but I think holidays particularly this holiday week, holidays without the phone, you don't need to document every part of your Christmas
My family did that. We decided that we're just going to enjoy it.
And wasn't it better?
It was way better.
See?
Well, we didn't get to see.
I get bored.
Food. Yeah, what do you know? Be honest. All right, come on. Everybody take a selfie in the commercial break. The media criticism over President Trump's surprise visit to troops in Iraq reaches epic levels. You won't believe what they are saying now, or maybe you will.
Before President Trump's surprise trip to Iraq, the media constantly attacked him for not visiting the troops. So you'd think they'd be happy to see President Trump in a combat zone, right? But they weren't. Not so fast. Check out the latest case of the media's whiplash.
We saw the president signing a campaign hat, a red hat, his Make America Great Again hat.
The president seems to have confused in some way this troop visit with a campaign rally.
Every time he's around military audiences, he tends to politicize it.
When we turned on CNN and we saw the president politicizing a Christmas message, It's like we kept saying he's like the Grinch.
Mr. Trump once again used a captive audience of American heroes to push his unpopular domestic agenda, this time the wall.
The media is the Grinch. Morgan, there's two things that I don't like.
Okay.
One, I don't like presidents that go overseas and apologize for our country. And I also don't like when presidents are overseas and the media criticizes the president while he's trying to do things for our troops. What's your take?
Well, I spent a holiday in 2007. I was in Baghdad. I wasn't on a military deployment. I was on a civilian mobilization at that time with USAID. And it's tough when you're overseas, when you're spending Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I think anytime you're there and any president of any party comes over, you are so excited because you're working, you're in the trenches, you're away from your family, you're away from your friends. So I think it's great that the president went. And I just want to say, for the people that don't understand the military's excitement, many of the members to see the president, they feel that way for this president. They feel that way for any president coming over because we all serve at the pleasure of the commander-in-chief. So I don't really understand this collective freak out about people being excited to see the president. They should be. Let's give them a break.
Well, but to be fair, some of that criticism is overblown, but there are legitimate criticisms of some of the things President Trump said. He lied to them and told them they hadn't gotten a pay raise until he gave them one. That's not true. He told them it was 10%. That's not true. He also waded into some domestic political issues like the wall, which to many people seems a little bit inappropriate. So I think it's very good that he went, and I think some media criticism is too far, but it is okay.
But they loved it, Marie. Did you see those military men and women there? They were excited, had MAGA hats, T-shirts, flags.
It's also fair to point out that the president told them things that were not accurate about their pay raises. That is not unfair media criticism. That is fact-checking a president.
I totally agree with you, Marie. But the bulk of the criticism was the formality of what the president did, that they didn't believe that they should have the hats. That those military men and women looked like they were having a good time, Dana.
Absolutely. And they should, and they deserve to have one. I just feel like, one about the wall, the president sees that as national security.
That's right.
So he doesn't see that as a domestic issue. But
he attacked Democrats.
Well, yeah,
I know.
In other words, he behaved exactly as he always does.
Of course.
No change.
That doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it right.
When are people going to stop being surprised, though? I mean, to me, it's, look at the way he behaved in an unprecedented fashion. But, I mean, that's the way he always behaves. Yes.
Yeah. And that, a trip like that is, it's hard to plan. It was an important one to do. And also, look, if you were somebody who was concerned about the president's seemingly abrupt decision just to say, okay, we're pulling out of Syria. Well, the other thing you got yesterday is to find out he has no plans to take troops out of Iraq. And he thinks that we can stage attacks from Iraq if we need to. So that should be a good thing.
That's
Even
amazing.
if you don't like the way he delivered it. It's
Morgan,
okay.
I want to hone into that because there was some news in the president when he was talking about what actually happened and how he got to this decision. He talked about that he had told the generals.
Are you talking about Syria?
Right.
Okay.
He talked to the generals and he said, hey, you got 6 months to come do this. They came back to the president and said, we need more time. Then they came to him a second time and need more time. And that third time he decided that, no, guys, we've set a deadline. Do you think the president set this deadline because of the campaign promise and he should have listened to the generals a little bit more? Or do you think the president is right on this?
Well, I think what we're going through right now is a transition in our national security. So the president's team, when his first year in office, laid out something called the National Security Strategy. And that is, how does the president see the world? Marie has probably been a part of drafting these in the Obama administration. And in that National Security Strategy, the president shifted us to great power conflict with Russia, with China, a focus on that. So the president's trying to shift us from a Middle East focused strategy. Admittedly, the Obama administration also wanted to focus us towards Asia. And so what happens is when you're shifting, that means military equipment is different. That means fighting is different. So we're in the middle of the transition of the forces, and that is sometimes rocky.
Do you agree? I mean, you're so focused on countries like Iran and their power in the region. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Do you agree with just abruptly pulling out and letting Iran fill that vacuum?
I do not, but I also think that what has been communicated over the last week seems that the president is starting to slow down that decision, that it's not happening overnight. I think that the president's team put out a fantastic strategy to counter Iran. You can't counter Iran if you're not in the region. It's impossible. And so perhaps, you're saying, I don't want to counter Iran anymore, or I want to focus on ISIS and it's done, moving on. I think the American people just need to understand what the strategy is, because we have a great Iran strategy. If we're going to actually counter them, we have to be in the region. That doesn't necessarily mean in Syria, but listen, I could nerd out and spend another hour with Marie going over this stuff. She's got a lot of experience here, too.
Tom, as Dana correctly noted, the president said that that's why he's leaving people in Iraq as well, too, so they could rush there if there's any type of conflict where he feels like any type of terrorist organization is gaining more ground. But do you think that's the correct strategy?
Well, I mean, it may be. It's what I've been saying on the radio all week, that I don't know if I would agree with Trump's strategy or Mad Dog Mattis' strategy, but I don't think it's unprecedented. You know, the president has an opinion that we should pull our troops out of Syria. You're right. They're going to be still in the region. We're still going to be there. I think that the press overreacts to everything the president does, and they did to this visit. I mean, the signing of the MAGA hat. Somebody came on and the analysis was it's a violation of the Hatch Act. I mean, he's signing a MAGA hat. We know the guys like the hats. They wanted to sign the hat. He used the word, what was the word he used? Suckers. America's no longer suckers. People overreacted to that. Oh, how dare you call our troops suckers? He wasn't calling the troops suckers. He was saying America, it's a part of his America First philosophy, and he was saying we don't need our troops fighting at a disadvantage. So I think it's always the overreaction. I don't think you do it, Marie Harf.
Thank you. I try not to, because I do think people do. I think a lot of people, every little thing they blow out of proportion. I do think there were legitimate things to criticize on this visit, and his language matters, right? His language has consequences.
Did the suckers bother you?
It's not the worst thing I've ever heard him say, but I didn't like it.
But what
right? I don't like when he's asked, "Were you nervous about coming to a war zone?" and he made it all about how nervous he was about the danger, right?
But wasn't that real, though? I mean, the president had never been there for. The shades are down.
Which is a problem. Which is a problem that he hasn't been there before.
No.
And I think the fact that he was dishonest.
Why is it a problem?
I think the fact that he was dishonest with the troops about pay raises, I really don't like that. For some reason, it's a fact. He said it wrong.
But why does it bother you that he talked about him being afraid going into a war zone? I mean, that's real.
Talk about their sacrifice. And not his.
Look, I think if I
were his communications advisor, that's what I would advise him.
I think a lot of people are more concerned about what the military feels about it. But when I watch those military men and women being so excited, I think we should just leave it up to them.
And some military folks have been on TV in the past few days criticizing it. There's members of the military on all political sides of the aisle here.
Yeah, that's fair.
We should just
remember
that.
Up next, we're putting our trivia knowledge to the test when Fox Nation's The Quiz Shows comes back, all on the fives.
Oh, yeah.